This is BBC World News. The headlines. There are long queues for propane in Moldova as the crisis over gas continues. Talks on a new deal for Russian gas supplies to Moldova are ongoing. Moldova declared a state of emergency after Russia's state energy supplier Gazprom raised its prices. Brazilian senators have voted to recommend charging President Jair Bolsonaro over his handling of the devastating COVID pandemic. The president has maintained he is guilty of absolutely nothing, but the crisis has dented his popularity. The Polish Senate will debate a proposal to build a wall along its border with Belarus to stop migrants entering illegally. Around 500 people try to cross every day. Brussels has accused Belarus of weaponising migration. And the Hong Kong authorities have been given powers to ban films deemed to violate China's security interests.
Now on BBC World News, the latest business news from across the globe. World Business Report.
Oh boy, a stark warning from the international labour organisations that the jobs market has taken a step backwards since the end of last year. And the tech titans give the markets an update. Yeah, Alphabet's cloud division sends its revenue sky high, but Twitter, it disappoints investors with its advertising dollars. Hello everybody, I'm Heslehurst. Welcome to the World Business Report. Give me about 10 minutes and I'll try to give you a fascinating snapshot of all the latest in the world of business and money. Let's get cracking because the ILO, that's the International Labour Organisation, has today issued a stark warning that the jobs market has taken a step backwards since December of 2019. 2019, there are concerns that a two-speed recovery between developed and developing nations threatens the global economy as a whole. The ILO is now projecting that global hours worked in 2021 will be about 4.3% below the pre-pandemic levels. That's roughly the equivalent of 125 million full-time jobs. This is an increase, certainly on the organisation's previous forecast. Well, on that point, let's jump straight over to Cher Verick, who is the head of the Employment Strategies Unit at the ILO, and joins us. Cher, always good to see you. Boy, this is quite different from the last set of forecast numbers the ILO gave us, and the worry now is what? This, as you call it, a two-speed recovery.
That's right. The last time we gave these estimates, we were cautiously optimistic of a recovery this year. But these latest figures that have been released today in the 8th ILO Monitor give a very stark picture. And indeed, as you've mentioned, the global labour market recovery has stalled. But at the same time, that aggregate figure masks that two-speed recovery you pointed out to. So really, there is a great divergence between advanced and developing countries still to this day.
And this stalling, what's behind it? Because I was looking at some interesting facts here. You know, it's estimated, right, that for every 14 people who are fully vaccinated, that creates one full-time job in the global market. So is this stalling all down to the lack of, rollout of vaccinations in the developing world?
Well, indeed. So in this monitor, we have looked at two key factors. Firstly, vaccination, and secondly, fiscal stimulus. And as you've pointed out, our analysis indicates that for every 14 persons fully vaccinated, we're seeing one full-time job added to the labour market. And clearly, the big challenge there is that vaccination rates remain very low in developing countries, particularly in Africa. Secondly, in our latest analysis, we see the continuing important role of fiscal stimulus, and we see a very positive association between fiscal stimulus. A 1% expenditure on fiscal stimulus is associated with a 0.3 percentage point increase in working hours relative to the pre-pandemic level.
Yeah, sure. And if we do look around the world, Cher, I mean, who's faring better than others in different regions? So,
indeed. So we see really stronger recovery patterns in richer countries, in North America and in Europe, etc., who have been able to get their populations vaccinated, who have had unprecedented levels of fiscal stimulus. And we see recovery lagging in middle-income countries, particularly lower middle-income countries where the vaccination rates are not as high and the fiscal stimulus is not as powerful. But I would also stress there is variation also within countries, and we shouldn't forget that young women, for example, women overall have been hit much harder. So even in countries that seem to be doing well, there are still disparities within country, and the inequality that is of major concern as well.
Indeed. And your boss, the boss of the ILO, Guy Ryder, says all of this needs to be addressed urgently in about 30 seconds, if we can. What do we need to do?
Well, clearly the vaccination rollout remains the key priority. But as the ILO has been calling for, we need to really beef up the financial technical support to these countries. Our global call to action for a human-centered recovery puts a lot of emphasis on that. So we need more resources. We need that technical support in those countries to see that they have a recovery where jobs are really at the center of it.
Indeed. Chef Eric, always a pleasure, my friend, to see you. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you soon. Chef Eric from the ILO joining me there. Hey, you know, it's a big week for tech companies with many of the household names. They've been releasing their latest financial numbers. Now, amongst them, Alphabet, which is, of course, the parent company of Google. It announced a 41% jump in revenue, so all the money it rakes in. It raked in $65 billion for the last 3 months. Alphabet's profit over that period, that was $21 billion, all boosted by a strong performance from its cloud division. Elsewhere, though, Twitter, it missed market expectations, all due to disappointing advertising revenues. That's after Apple updated its privacy policy. Well, Russ Frushtick is co-founder of the online tech platform Polygon. And a little earlier, we asked him just how important is the cloud division to Alphabet's profits?
It's funny, the cloud division is still losing money for them. It's still not in the black, but it is significantly making much more money than it was, for example, just a quarter ago. So it is increasingly becoming a big part of their business. It is not quite the dynamo that the rest of their business is. I think ad revenue, whether it's through search or through YouTube and various other platforms, is definitely still their bread and butter. But they are building this side business that continues to grow and grow and grow and will eventually, I think, eclipse everything else. I think a lot of it has to do with Google and Alphabet being so diversified. You know, they have these ad revenue streams from their search engine, from YouTube, from all these different sources. Whereas you look at Twitter, and obviously Twitter is much more focused on one specific platform. And so if that platform gets hit by something, which in this case, it got hit by a pretty significant lawsuit this year, which really hurt their earnings, it all kind of tumbles down off of that. They're trying to push a more personalized Twitter. They are trying to turn Twitter less into just like a timeline of people that you follow and maybe more connected to current events, stuff like that. I know I've seen early versions of the Twitter app more focused and looking more like Facebook than it currently does, which is an interesting move.
That was Russ Frushtick for talking to us a little earlier. He's from Polygon. You know, they say it's lonely at the top, but can it be more than that? Can leaders of big global companies become trapped in, well, kind of a bubble where they don't hear the advice they need to hear, including on the most pressing issues like climate change? Well, one business leader thinks so, and he's been sharing his CEO secrets with us. Take a look.
Avoiding the CEO bubble is essential for learning and for innovation. As CEOs, we have to recognize that a bubble will form around us, that people may be less likely to tell us what they really think, to challenge and push back, to disagree. And it's on all of us as leaders to build organizations that are diverse so that we have different perspectives in the room, and to create a culture where people will speak up, will challenge, will come up with new ideas, and feel free to raise them even if they turn out not to be great ideas. If I personalize this, climate change is a great example. We were already acting to address climate change, but not as boldly as we needed to. And I had partners in BCG who pushed back very strongly on me, educated our broader partnership. They turned out to be right. It did change the trajectory of the way we've acted much more boldly. They helped me break through my own bubble, and they helped BCG get better as a result. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
Okay, let me leave you a few other stories making headline news. Hey, it's finally happened. Australia. It has confirmed it will lift a ban next week that has prevented its own citizens travelling overseas without permission. Yeah, Australians, boy, they've spent 19 months under some of the world's strictest border rules, all in an effort, of course, to keep out COVID. Didn't work, though. From the 1st of November, people will no longer need an exemption to leave the country, provided they are fully vaccinated. It also means us Aussies can go home and visit our families, finally. Hey, McDonald's workers walked out in restaurants in 12 US cities, all in protest at the fast food giant's handling of sexual harassment claims. Organisers, who have held 5 strikes over harassment since 2018, say that McDonald's has largely ignored frontline workers who complain. Cashiers and cooks walked out in Chicago, Detroit, Houston and Miami, among other places. That was yesterday on Tuesday. And Britain's finance minister, there he is, Rishi Sunak. He's unveiling his big budget in an hour's time. In fact, Mr. Sunak has promised his budget begins the work of preparing for a new economy post-COVID. Some policies have already been unveiled, such as a rise in the UK's national living wage from $12.27 per hour to $13.08. All that's going to come into effect on the 1st of April. That's it. Follow me on Twitter. Tweet me. I'll tweet you back. You can get me at BBC Aaron. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.